So yesterday we were discussing React.js, right? And one activity, one application was left, that is advice application, right? So let's now start with advice application quickly. And along with this application, we learn some of the concepts as well, right? How you can create and use multiple components. This we already saw yesterday. JSX also we saw yesterday. So yes, fetch API will be new thing for us in this particular activity. Then we'll also discuss about props. Then one of the most important hook in React, which is use effect hook, and also how we can handle events using React, right? These things we already done with pure document object model, right? Pure DOM manipulation, and also with jQuery. Remember, we handled event there, but how we can handle events in React, that we are going to see in this particular activity. And again, this application we are going to create using create React app, right? So quickly create one React application. Yeah, sure, Yadika ma'am. Once I complete with React part, then I'll uh, provide you the access. Okay, so now open your CMD and write this command npx create react app, and you can name anything. For example, advice application, right? I already did this to save some time, right? And I already removed all the unnecessary folders and files. Remember yesterday we did the same thing. We deleted all the unnecessary files from SRC folder. So I already did this thing, and now I have only three files: app.css, app.js, and index.js, right? Index.js, this is the file, right? I removed the unnecessary code from here, like report web vitals and all. And in app.js, I removed everything. We'll start from scratch. And in app.css, I removed the default style and I added the new styles. But these styles I'm going to share you in a while, right? The style is not again the point of discussion, but we are just adding it, right? Just to make it look beautiful. So I'll share this CSS file with you in a while, but first let's focus on the main thing, which is React, right? So I am inside app.js. Sorry. And I will create the component. So which component I will create? I will create app component, right? And of course, we need to export this component. So what I will write? I will write export default app. Right? If you don't want to write in a separate line, you can write here also in front of function, before function. You can directly write export default. This also works. Then you can remove this. This also works the same. Fine. Now, sorry. Now, what is the idea of this activity, of this project, what we are going to do? So I want to create basically one button on the UI, and I want that when user clicks on the button, an advice message should be displayed. I repeat, when user clicks on a button, on every click there should be new advice message on the UI. That is what I want, right? So for that, we are going to utilize this API. I'm sharing the link of this API with you in the chat. So if you are doing this hands-on with me, please take that. And see, here I am just visiting that API link, okay, which I just shared with you. So see here, what we got? We got one object. This is JSON, right? And here you can see advice, winter is coming. And if you refresh this, there is new advice. The more ideas that you give away, the more ideas that will come to you. If you refresh again, this is again a new advice. We did not create it. We did not create this advice API, right? Someone else has created and we are just using it. Okay. So how we can use the API created by the backend team or someone, right? That we will see. And if you open the same link, you will not see this, structured format of JSON. I'm using one extension. I think the name is JSON Viewer or JSON Prettier. Okay, it is JSON Viewer. See here. So what you can do, you can just search for JSON Viewer and you can install this extension. Once you install it, you will also see all the JSON responses, all the API responses in a structured manner, right? Okay, so from this API, we are going to get the data. I hope this much is clear. Now, what we want on the UI, we want a advice message. So advice, but I would say advice is a state. What is a state? The data that is going to change in the UI. So advice message is the data that will be changed on every button click, right? So if the data is changing, can we say it is as a state, right? So I will create state and let's name it advice, set advice. Okay, and we will use state. Here we don't need to write like this, react dot use state. No need to write like that, react dot use state. We can directly import it at the top, right? We can use import export syntax, right? There it was a lecture of pure React, right? So we used to do like that, but here we will import it. So I can directly write use state like this. And of course, it is going to give you error because we need to import this, right? We'll do that. But before that, what is the initial value of advice? Let's say empty string. Okay, now it is giving you an error. So let's first import this. And remember, all import statement comes at top. So I will write import use state, right? It auto completed. So import use state from React. Okay, so my state is ready. Clear up to this point? And let's now create the UI. So what this function will return? Of course, a piece of UI, right? So let me create div. This is my parent component, right? You can also write a React fragment here. But why I'm using div, I'll let you know. So here, the first thing will be h1, which will display advice, right? The second thing will be button, and the name of the button will be get advice. Okay, this is what I want on the UI part. Okay, fine. So let's now run this and let's see what we are getting, right? So how to run React application? Just write npm start. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let's continue. Let's see the output. Yes, we are getting h1 and the button as well, right? Now let's call that API. Okay, and let's update the state. So for that, I am creating one function. Function get advice. This is the function that I am creating. Right now, in this function, I will call fetch function. Now, fetch function is a browser API, which allows us to initiate HTTP request. Right, so we want to make a request, right, to an external server, to an API, right? So we are going to use this fetch method. Now remember, I told you that there is one alternative way of callback function, right? Callback function when we use for handling asynchronous operation, right? Now this fetch function is also asynchronous operation, but the alternative of callback is promises, right? When we have so many nested callbacks, then we prefer promises, right? Now this fetch function, if you hover over this fetch function, you can see it is returning promise. It is returning promise, right? So we handle it bit differently, right? how we handle using callback function. Here we will handle it bit differently, right? So there are two syntax to handle the function response, function return value when it is returning a promise. One is then and catch method, and second is async await, right? Async await is the most simple syntax, right? Then and catch sometimes becomes complex, but async await is very clear and simple one to use, right? It is a new update, async await. So let's go with async await, right? So, but before that, here in the fetch function, I will pass the URL. Which URL? This API URL. So I'll copy this and I will paste it here. Okay. Now, this function is returning what? Returning a promise. So before this fetch function, I need to write one keyword called as await, right? Just to, access the response that it is giving, right? It is giving JSON, right? So just to capture that, we are using await keyword. If we use then and catch method, then the things become a bit messy, bit tricky, right? But here the syntax is very simple. So I will store this in a variable called as result, right? Now it is giving an error. Why this error is giving? Because it is saying that you cannot use await keyword without async. Right? So what you need to do in whichever function you are trying to use await, in front of that function, you must write async. In front of that function, you must write async. Right? Now that error is gone. But the you can say a little bit of disadvantage of fetch function is it cannot give you the JSON directly. See, this is the JSON response, right? That we want. This is the JSON response that we want, but it cannot give you directly. Right? So it will give you some raw data, but not JSON directly, right? So whatever we got here in the result, it is not that JSON that we want. So what you need to do, you need to call JSON method on that response. Now that response is converted into JSON, right? But if you hover over this JSON method, you can see this JSON method is also returning a promise. So if it is returning a promise, how we can handle it? Writing await keyword in front of it. Right? If we get some extra time at the end, we'll definitely discuss promises in detail. It's a very nice, very interesting concept. Right? We'll discuss it in detail. Okay, so now again, I will store this in a variable, let's say data. Sorry. So now we got the data, right? So let's do one thing. Let's print this on the console. Okay, and let's add some click event here in the button so that when we click on get advice, we should see this data message in the console, right? So that we can also verify that we are successfully fetching data from API or not, right? So if there is an issue, we can fix that. So in this button, let's handle the event. So I will write on click because click event I want to handle. So I can write like this on click, right? In camel casing format. On click. Now what do you want to do on click? I want to call the function get advice. See, the function name is get advice. So I will write get advice here. Now do not call this function. No, some people make mistake here. Do not call this function. React will call this function, right? Whenever the click event will be fired, React will call this get advice function. We don't need to do that, right? So let React handle it. Okay, so far so good. Let's verify once. So let me open the console. Okay, now I'm clicking on get advice. And yes, we are getting the slip object. See here also we were getting slip object. Can you see? And now in our React application, we are successfully fetching the data from API. But this slip object is the actual thing that we want. No, we want this advice, right? So what I can do, instead of printing entire object, I can write data.slip. Now let's see. Now let's refresh and now click on get advice. Okay, now I can directly get the object which has ID and advice. So let's do one thing on this slip. Let's print advice because advice is the only thing that we want. So now if I click on get advice again, yes, now I can directly get the advice. Tell it like it is. If I click on get advice again, yes, I'm getting the new advice. Yes, yes. Now bit of functionality we achieved, right? But do we want this printed on the console? No, I want to print it on the UI, right? So for that, what we can do, we can update this advice state, right? So instead of console log, I will write set advice, right? Remember, we update the state, React update the UI. This is a very important line that you need to underline. We update the state, React updates the UI. So we are updating the state using set advice function, right? Okay, so in this set advice, I will pass data.slip.advice, which is the new value of advice. So on every function call, advice will be set, and every time there will be new advice. Okay, so far so good. And finally here we can print the advice. So I can write like this because this is a React variable, React state, right? We are entering into JavaScript mode. So how to enter using curly braces and where I can print any data, any variable. So I'm printing advice. Now let's check. Let's check. Let's refresh once. And now I will click on get advice. And yes, now we are getting the functionality. If I click on again, every time there will be random advice, right? Work is never as important as you think it is, right? So many advices will be there. Okay. Up to this point, anyone having any doubt? Is it clear up to this point? Now we'll extend this and we'll add some more functionality to it. Okay. Yeah, there might be some network issue from your end, Vidyashree ma'am. You can rejoin once and that might work. Okay. So bit of the thing that we wanted, we already achieved, right? But let's.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jay sir. There is one question in the chat box that how we can add the JSON extension.
Please, how to add extension of JSON? I did not get the question. Rambabu sir, can you please elaborate? See, if what I am getting from your question is that this data is JSON response, right? So what is happening here from server, it is returning a JSON response, right? We are not getting the file of .json. This is the response that we are receiving, right? This is what an API is, right? It doesn't mean that it will always be JSON, right? API response can be anything else. It can be just a variable. It can be just an array. It can be just a string, right? But JSON is the more convenient format that we use for communication between server and client, right? Earlier we were using server side rendering. So there, we were directly creating the website on the server and server is sending the HTML, CSS and JavaScript. But right now we are not doing that, right? These days we use client side rendering, right? So we receive JSON and rest everything we do on the client side, right? So this is the JSON response that we are getting. We don't need to do anything with the .json file or anything like that. Okay. I hope that was your question. If it was something else, please elaborate and we can discuss on that. Okay, okay. Thank you, Rambabu sir, for confirmation. Let's continue then. Okay. Okay. Now, can you see there is one little bit of, I cannot say problem, but see, if I refresh this page, that means when I first time visit the page, there should be, don't you think there should be some default advice that should be displayed on the page, right? It will be more good, convenient, right? So if I visit the page for the first time, it should show up our advice, right? So for that purpose, we will be using use effect hook. Right? There are two use cases of use effect hook. I'll tell you both. So after this function, I will call use effect. Again, remember hook is nothing but a function. So I'm just calling this function. Okay. Now I need to import it and see it is already imported by VS Code, right? So I imported use effect and used it. Whatever you hook that you want to use, you need to import it. Right? And if you are wondering why we are using this curly braces in the import statement, right? See, in index.js, we are not using anywhere curly braces. So the reason is that when, a module, a file is returning more than one thing, right? So here from from the place we are getting this use effect and use state, it is returning multiple functions. And if the file returns multiple things, then we need to import it in the curly braces, right? But if you observe from this app file, app component, we are just exporting only this app. See, export default function app. We are just importing one thing. We are just exporting one thing. That is why there is no curly braces required here. Okay, that's the reason we have curly braces here. Okay, coming back to use effect. So there are two arguments for this use effect. First is callback function and second is dependency array. An array which is called as dependency array, right? Now see what is the use of use effect. So this dependency array takes states, right? For example, add y state, for example, x state, y, z, right? You can write add as many as required. So what happens is when this states changes, for example, if you write advice, so when advice changes, right? See, on every function call, we are updating the advice. So when the state changes, what you want to execute. On every state change, what you want to execute, that you write in the first argument callback function. This is one use case. And the second use case is you can keep this dependency array empty. That means when you load your website for the first time, when you visit the website for the first time, at that time, what you want to execute. So this second use case of use effect is helpful for us because what we want that when we visit the page for the first time, then one advice should be displayed by default, right? So the second use case of use effect will be required for our case. But now you understood the second use case also, first use case also, which is to write values in the dependency array, right? So when that state changes, then this callback function will be executed. Okay, so right now I will just call get advice here because what I want on the first visit, get advice function should be called. Okay, I think someone is on unmute. Kindly mute yourself. Okay. Yes. So this little piece of, you know, uh, extension is done by us. So now let's check and I'm refreshing the page and see it is working just fine. On visiting the page for the first time, we are already getting one message here, right? One advice here. Now again, the get advice button is working just great. Okay. Now let's add some more thing here, right? Because I also want to explain the concept of prop, right? So to understand props, let's add a bit of functionality here. Okay, so now below this button, let's print a message that maybe you read and let's write strong tag so that we get the number in bold. You read 5 advices, something like that, the message that you want to display. But right now it is 5 always, right? See, I'm changing the advice, but nothing is happening here. Why? Because I'm hard coding 5. Now, if you observe, this 5 is the data that is going to change in the UI. And if the data is going to change in the UI, what it can be? It can be a state. So let's create one more state, which is for count. So I will write let count and set count and use state. And let's say initial value is 0. Right now, what I will do when we update the advice, let's update the count as well, because every time new address will be generated, every time count will be incremented, right? So let's write set count. And what is the new value of count? Count plus 1, right? You can also write like this. For example, you can pass callback function here that count. You can pass count and you can write count plus 1. You can also do like this. This count is just a variable. You can write C as well. Right? But if you find it difficult this way, you can go with this way also. Right? Both ways fine. Okay, so I updated the count. Right? Let's now verify. Okay, here I'm printing 5. So instead of 5, I will print count. Now let's refresh this. And right now we are getting 2 advice. Okay, I'll tell you why. Now, if we click on get advice, we are getting 3. If we click again, we are getting 4. So this functionality is also working. But when we refresh, you can see by default there is 2 advice. There should be 1, right? So the reason is in the index.js, we are using strict mode, right? So strict mode basically helps React to, find some of the bugs and also for debugging purpose, right? So that is why it is rendering the component twice initially. That is why we are getting 2 times count, because it is rendering the component twice, right? If you remove this line, strict mode, then there won't be any issue. But let's not remove this, because this thing will happen only in the development, right? If we deploy this application in production, this will not happen. So let's not change anything here, right? It is for us also, for us only. React uh, uses this for some big bug fixes and all. So let's keep it as it is. In production, this will not happen, right? We will also deploy this application today. So you can verify this once we deploy this application, right? So in production, there will be only one advice by default. Okay. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's create another component, message component, and let's write this paragraph there. Can we do that? Yes. So when we can, where we can create the another component, we can create in the src folder. But you can write the same component in the same file also with different file we discussed yesterday. So let's do one thing. Let's create the second component in the same file, right? So below function component, I will write function message. Again, you can use arrow function here, anonymous function here, but I prefer using traditional way. Okay, so function message, right? Which is simply returning one paragraph, which is simply returning one paragraph. Which is the paragraph? This is that paragraph. So I'll cut it from here and I will paste it here. Okay. Now, how to call this function here? How to call this component here? Just like a HTML element. Message like this. We can do that. No need to export this message because we are not going to use it outside of the file, right? We are just calling this message component in the same file. So no need to export this. Okay. Now let's check and we are getting an error. Why we are getting the error? See, here is the error on the count. It is saying count is not defined. Now, what is the issue here? Anyone? Can anyone find this issue? Earlier it was working just fine, but now we are getting count is not defined. Any idea, anyone? Yeah, Raghunath sir, I'll surely add you, but let's first finish this React part, okay? Because that addition of subscription access takes some time, right? So let's first do this thing. Okay, so the reason is the count state is not in this message component. It is in the advice component. See, this count state is in the app component. Yes, it is in the app component and not in the message component. That's why we are getting error here. So now what we can do? Shall we move the state to this component? No, that is not ideal way. What we can do? We can pass this state from this app component to this message component. Yes, that we can do. Right. So what we are doing here in the app component, we are calling the message component. That means app is the parent and message is the child. Understanding, app is the parent and message is the child because we are calling message inside app. Right. So what we want to do, our state is in the app component. So I want to pass the state from my app component to message component. That means from parent to child. Right. So in React, if you want to do this, if you want to send data from parent component to child component, you can use the concept of props. Right. To explain you props, we created two different components. Okay. So I want to pass something like uh, count is equal to count. Right. So prop is nothing but you can consider as HTML attribute. This is how we write attribute, right? So the same way here we are writing it, right? This is the name of the prop. You can change it to anything. You can write it like C, but it's better to write the exact name. Okay, so we passed the prop. Prop stands for properties, nothing else, right? Just like HTML attributes, right? Now we sent the data, the state from parent component, but we need to receive it in the child component, right? So it is just like you are receiving parameters. This is an argument that I am passing. So here the parameter should be there, right? So the parameter will be always this props object. And on this props object, you can call count, you can call any prop that are coming in, right? So on this props, you have count. So instead of count, you can write props.count and that will work just fine. I hope you got the point. Now let's see the error is gone. Let me refresh it once and you are getting two advices. If I click on get advice, yes, it is working again just fine. Yes. So this is what we wanted to build in this particular activity, right? Now I will add some of the style, right? But which is completely optional, right? Get back to 100%. Yes. Okay, so that is completely optional, but if you want to do that, so I already created this CSS file, right? I can share this content with you. So if you are doing with me, please copy this CSS file, right? I shared it in the chat. Now, in this CSS file, there are classes for these components, for these elements, right? So let's add the classes. Right? For example, first is container class. So container will be fitted in this particular div, right? So here in div, I will write class name is equal to container. Now, if you notice something, instead of class, we are writing class name here. So this is another rule of JSX. In JSX, there is no class. There is always class name. Sometimes it works if you write class, but you should not write. You should write class name. Why? The reason is that class is the reserved keyword in JavaScript, right? So that's why you need to write class name. Okay. Now let's see what is the next class. This is the element tag, so no need to do anything. Yes, get advice button and original button. These are the classes we can write in the button. So in button, let me write the classes, class name. Sorry, and I will write get advice button. And what was the second one? Let me copy this so that we don't make any mistake. So original button. And we got original button. Now, one thing I'll tell you that, see, this button that I'm going to write, I'm going to create, this button is not created by me, right? There are so many websites, right? You can just write CSS button generator. I also did the same thing. I just searched for CSS button generator and I clicked on the first link and I generated one button. It's very easy to generate button code, button styles, right? Just using some of the websites. So I did the same thing. I did not write this button style myself. I took it, I generated it from one of the website. Okay. So all these styles starting from original button till here, all the button style, I got it from the external website, right? Now, button is done. And there is one more class called count message. So this count message, I named this classes so that you can easily understand that which class will get fitted into which component, right? Which element. So this count message, of course, it will be for this paragraph. So class name, count message, right? I don't think we are forgetting any class. Everything is done, hopefully. Now let's see the output. Okay, so if I go here again and if I just refresh this, no, we are not getting any style. Why? The reason is that I forgot to import this CSS file here, right? So first we need to import this. So import dot slash app dot CSS. Now let's check. And yes, finally we are getting the output, but the button is not styled. This is not the button style that I got from the external website. Let's check the issue. See, here is the issue. The class name, the name on in the class name is not capital. N of name should be in capital. So now it should work. And yes, now it is working just fine. Let me refresh this. And I have two advice, right? And if I click on get advice, see these buttons, hover effect, border effects, right? So there are so many buttons that you can also generate in just 30 seconds. You don't need to write any line of code, right? If I show you, you can just write CSS button generator and you can open any one. I think I used the second or third one, but you can use any one. See, you just need to write the text what you want on the button. For example, get advice, and see your button is getting prepared. Can you see? So you can just add border, background, hover effect, everything from here, and you can then directly copy this code. You can then directly copy this code. So this is how I also generated this button. Just a second. Yes. Yes. So it is working just fine now. Okay. Now in the cloud computing discussion, we'll also deploy this web page, this React application, right? Now, I hope everything is clear. Shall we conclude the React discussion? Is it clear to everyone? Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to share the attendance link, and while you mark attendance, I'll just provide you the access of uh, Azure portal, right? Subscription for those who just share their email ID before some time, right? So now I'm going to share you the attendance link. Just wait a moment. Yes, I just shared attendance link. Before you mark your attendance, let's take one group photograph. I request everyone to please turn on your camera so that we can take one group photograph. Yes, all participants, please turn on your videos. Okay, I'm just taking the screenshot. All right, done. You can turn it off now. Okay, please mark your attendance and let us know in the chat. Meanwhile, I'll provide the Outlook access. Okay, so recently I received from Raghunath sir. Santosh Kumar sir as well. Sushma ma'am, I already shared with you. Acha, your email was wrong at that time, na? Oh. Yes, regarding recording, all the recordings are already uploaded, and in some time, Vidhi ma'am will show us how you can access them, right? So please wait for that. Okay, so now whoever has provided their Outlook, now finally I'm uh, sharing them invite. Please quickly accept it so that right away I can assign you the subscription. Okay, while others are marking their attendance, let me finish this one. Faculty members, I request everyone, please do not create your Outlook now and share with us because it take time to add you
Hello, sir.
for subscription.
Actually, I have one question. Can I ask?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Hello.
Yeah. Sunita, ma'am, you are audible.
Sir, there is actually I'm already logged that dashboard, but there is only one session is present, recorded session. So
No, no,
when you going
actually
to
in that,
apply?
I got your point. Actually, in that video frame on the top right corner, you will see one button, something like 1/6 or 1/7 something. Can you see that on the
I
same
don't
video
think
frame?
so that button is present there because I think there is only dashboard,
Okay.
study material, final assessment, and session recording. So that session recording only one session is present, recorded
Yeah,
session.
no worries. Please wait for some time. Vidibam is going to show us the demo. Okay,
Yeah,
please wait
because
for some time.
a lecture, sir, so it's not possible to me all the time present for the live session.
Yeah,
So
I completely got your point, and we will check it from our end also. we checked it yesterday, but all the session recordings are already there. But we'll still check
No,
your
I can't
issue.
see it,
Okay.
sir. That's why I'm
Yeah, yeah. No
asking.
worries. No worries.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am. In that case, if you have already logged in, then can you share your screen?
Yeah, 1 second, ma'am.
Just a
or
second.
Vidhi,
Let
we
me
can
just.
do this activity right away. You can show them how they can access the recording.
Yes, yes. That is why I'm asking her to share the screen.
Huh.
It is Sunita, ma'am, right? Let me just
Yes.
provide you the rights.
Yes, and faculties, please do not share your Outlook now because it take time to add you for the subscription, right? And if we do this in the session, we will run out of time, right? So that's the reason we discussed this yesterday, and I asked you to share your emails yesterday, right? So that we don't need to spend time on this in the session, because if we do in the session, then we cannot cover what we have to cover of the technical training, right? So please do not share
Sunita,
your
ma'am,
Outlook now.
are you there in the meeting? Because I'm not able to find you.
So, madam, I think I already added you. Acha, you shared the different domain wala email,
Sorry,
right?
sir. Actually, call was interrupted. I'm sending that screenshot.
Yeah,
Yes.
Sunitham, you can share your screen.
Yes, I have marked you as a presenter, so you can share your screen now.
Okay, Sumita ma'am, I got your Outlook email. Just a second.
Can you see it, sir, now?
Yes.
Sumita ma'am, it is showing not a valid email address. Okay, you added space in between. No worries.
Sunita ma'am, whatever the snapshot you have shared with us, in that snapshot, if you will see, there is only one video you are able to see, right? So on a
Yeah.
top right side, you will see the record 1/10 kind of things. 1/8, sorry. On a top
Okay.
right hand side, you will see 1/8. You just need to click on that particular menu icon. Okay, there will be
Okay.
3 lines, and after 3 lines, there will be written 1/8 in a white color.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, ma'am.
so you
Okay.
need to click on that. So there you will be able to see the all the videos. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sumita ma'am, again, I'm getting the same thing. This email is not valid. Okay, and faculty members, let's do one thing. Let me not add you for now, right? Because it is taking more than 2-3 minutes, right? Just to add one participant. So if I do it for, I think I have 10 new emails, more than 10. So half an hour will be gone in this, right? So we cannot afford that, right? Because we have a lot many things to cover in cloud computing. And today is the last day of FDP, right? So what you can do, you can just see what I'm doing now. You will have this recording with you, right? And after the session, you can again, I'll again accept the responses in the same Google form. I'll again share the link with you, right? So after the session, you can again fill up that Google form, right? Those who have not already filled it, you can fill up again, right? And I will provide you the access. Does that work? Because otherwise it will take half an hour just for this thing, right? And we need to cover so many things. Okay, does that work? Yes, so madam, you got email, but I was actually trying to provide you the subscription, and there I am getting that this email is invalid. But no worries, I'll check that. Okay, no worries, I'll check that. Your email is right, right? So that's why you got the invitation. But let's check it after the session. Okay, okay, fine. So just give me a moment, and Yeah, there is no subscription in that because I'm not able to provide you subscription. I'm getting that email is invalid, but I'll check this after the session, right? Right now, you can just see, all of you, you can just see those who have just provided me their emails. You can just see whatever I'm doing. And after the session, you can practice. Okay, after the session, you can practice.
मैम ने बताया नहीं कुछ
Arushi ma'am, you are on unmute. Okay, fine. So now I'll again share my screen, just 1 minute. And one more thing, please do not share your emails now in the chat because I will miss some of them. So I'll again accept the responses over that Google form, right? At the end of the session, I'll share the Google form with you, right? Then you can again fill up that. Okay. Whatever new names I'll be getting before, 7 p.m. today, we'll again add them, right? Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I hope my screen is visible. Is it visible to all? Can you see this slide deck of cloud computing?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So let's now understand what cloud computing is, right? And why we are using this. Okay. So first, you can consider, you can imagine cloud as a vast virtual space over the internet, right? There's a vast virtual space on the internet where you can store your stuff, and you can access your stuff, right? And your stuff can be like files, it can be applications, it can be data, anything, right? This is what cloud computing is. I repeat again, this is just a virtual space on the internet, right? Actually, cloud is not just virtual. It is not all about virtual. It is physical, right? There are some data centers where you are going to store this stuff. And those data centers are, of course, physically present somewhere, right? But you are accessing those data centers using internet. That's why we look cloud as, all about virtual things, right? So this is a space where you can store your stuff and you can access your stuff and you can manage your stuff. This is what the meaning of cloud computing is. Let me also write some of the notes here. So first thing we discussed about what is cloud computing. Now you have the basic idea of cloud computing, right? Let's discuss this thing further, right? And let's now discuss services in the cloud. Anyone, any idea what kind of services we get in the cloud? So mainly we get three types of services. Three types of services that we mainly get. One is infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service, right? Which you can also call as IaaS. Second type of service that we get is platform as a service. I'll explain each in detail. So second is platform as a service, which is also called as PaaS, PaaS. Okay, and the third type of service that cloud offers is software as a service, which is also called as SaaS, SaaS. Right? So these three types of services that we get on the cloud, right? So there are so many cloud providers in the market, right? And the popular ones are Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, right? Amazon AWS, right? So these are the cloud providers that is going to provide us these services, be it IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, these services they are going to provide us, right? But what is infrastructure as a service, right? So in cloud, there are so many concepts, right? There are so many theoretical concepts as well, and we are going to discuss some of them in the session. So I'll try to explain each concept with one example. We'll relate it with one, real life example, right? So infrastructure as a service. Yes. Anyone saying something? Okay. So infrastructure as a service, it is basically like renting a ready-made computer on the internet. Please mute. Please mute. Yes. So we can say it is like in infrastructure as a service, it is like renting a ready-made computer on the internet, right? It's up to us. We can control the software, like what operating system and what application that we want. Cloud provider will just provide us infrastructure. It is just a ready-made computer. You install operating system on that, you install application on that, and you do what you want on that. Right? That is what infrastructure as a service is. For example, let's say you want to create one Java application. You want to create one Java application. So cloud provider can just give you a computer virtually. Rest everything you need to do. You need to install all your Java related dependencies, packages, everything. And if we talk about platform as a service, right? So if we relate it with one example, so I can say it is, uh, like using a fully equipped kitchen in a restaurant, right? So what you do, you just focus on creating your dish, right? Dish here means applications. You just focus on creating your dishes, right? Without worrying about any kitchen infrastructure. So infrastructure is provided to us, platform is provided to us, right? Everything is there ready-made. You just focus on creating your dish. Continuing the same example of Java application, Java backend application, in platform as a service, you get all the necessary dependencies, all the necessary softwares that are required to create a Java-based application. For example, you require JDK, so you will get it. You require Eclipse, you will get it. You require server, you will get it. You require some build tool like Gradle or Maven that will be pre-installed. Everything will be there. You just focus on creating the Java application. That is what the approach of platform as a service is. And the third service is software as a service, right? So this is like, ordering food from a menu. You get the menu and you choose what you want to have, right? So basically you can use software without managing any technical details, right? And the example can be email, example can be word processor, right? You are just using the email services, right? We don't care about how it is working and what all resources it is using, nothing else, nothing. We just choose that we want to use this email. We just go there and we just use it. This is what the software as a service is. Right? Understood? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Right? What can be the example of platform as a service in terms of Azure? Now we'll be talking in terms of Azure because Azure is the cloud provider that we are going to use. Azure platform is the platform that we are going to use for our tutorial purpose, right? So Azure basically provides services some of the services are IaaS, some of our PaaS, and some of our software as a services. Right? So for platform as a service, Azure provides us a service called as app hosting, right? Where you just host your website. You don't focus on the internal things, how it is getting hosted, what all things it is taking care of. No, we will get the platform as a in the form of service called as app hosting. We will just host our application on that service. Right? That is one example of platform as a service. And if we talk about an example of infrastructure as a service, right? Again, we'll talk in terms of Azure only. So it gives you a service called as virtual machine. It gives you a service called as virtual machine, right? So we create virtual machine. That is nothing but just the infrastructure, right? Just a machine. Rest everything you do on your own, right? And software as a service, as I already told you, it can be Outlook, right? Which is again a product of Microsoft, and that works on software as a service model, because we just go there and we just use it, right? I hope this services is pretty much clear to all of you. Okay, moving forward, let's discuss about some of the major benefits of cloud computing, right? So what can be the benefits? Anyone wants to try? Anyone knows? We discussed some of them, right? But still. Yes, anyone? Outsourcing of resources, okay. Storing immense data, correct. Security of data, correct. They have strong security mechanisms, absolutely correct. Providing space without maintenance, yes, that is also a major advantage, right? Because we don't need any physical space. Everything we are using virtually, everything we are accessing virtually. We don't need to maintain any physical servers, right? If we purchase the whole infrastructure, then this approach is not cost efficient at all. We need to spend huge amount of money, right? We need space, we need money, we need maintenance, everything we need to take care of on ourselves, right? But now we have cloud, so we can use cloud instead of all these things, right? For example, once in a year, I want more resources, and for rest of the year, I want less resources. So what I will do? Will I buy more resources, but that will be unused then throughout the year, rest of the time? So instead, what we can do, we can go with cloud solutions, right? So whenever you want more servers, more resources, you can rent them. And whenever you don't, you just don't use them. And whatever you use, only for that you pay, right? Cloud works on pay as you go model. Whatever you use, you just pay for that. Okay. So let me also write down some of the features here, right? So let's start with scalability. Those cloud solutions are very scalable, right? Whenever you want to increase your resources, you can increase it. When you want to decrease it, you can decrease it. And when you use more, you pay more. When you use less, you pay less, right? It all depends on your use, right? One more way scalability can be looked as is you can easily adjust the size of your digital storage or computing power or any resources that you are using, right? Second is cost efficient. So cost efficiency. Cloud solutions are cost efficient. Okay, so obviously it is cheaper than managing our physical servers and infrastructures. That is why it is cost efficient. Please mute yourself. Who is on unmute? Okay. Then third benefit we can list is maybe flexibility, right? These solutions are again flexible. How flexible? Because you can access your stuff from anywhere in the world. What you need, you just need internet connection. That is why cloud solutions are flexible, right? After flexibility, you can also write reliability. How cloud solutions are reliable? Because they handle the maintenance thing and they ensure whether the things are working correctly, whether the things are working smoothly or not, right? So every maintenance things and these things is taken care by cloud provider. That is why it is reliable, right? And last but not the least is security. As Sumita ma'am mentioned, that cloud solutions are highly secure, right? They already implement so many strong security measures, strong security mechanisms to protect our data and our application, right? So these are some of the benefits of cloud that we can consider, right? And one more time, I'm repeating that cloud is not just virtual, right? It is physical too. Why? Because there are data centers which are powerful computers which are in the cloud, which are actually at a physical space, right? From where we are accessing and in those data centers we are storing our data. They will provide you their right contacts so that you will get the. So to summarize, I will say cloud computing is, like renting a space and servers on the internet so that we can store, we can create, and we can use our digital content. It offers what? It offers flexibility, it offers cost savings and reliability, right? As compared to managing everything on your own, right? So this is what the introduction of cloud computing is. We discussed what cloud computing is, services, benefits, and at the end we also summarized the things. Right now, whatever we are discussing, that will be powered by hands-on, right? So the next thing that we are discussing is resource group. Okay, resource group. So let's first understand resource group and then we'll move to Azure portal. Okay, so resource group, you can think of it as, a digital folder or a container, right? From where you will put all your resources related to a specific project, right? It is just like a folder. If we take an example, so you might have folders in your system where you are storing your students' assignments, right? So for each subject, you will have different folder, right? So it is just like a folder where you are going to store your resources. Your resources can be database, right? It can be your files, anything. It can be a virtual machine. It can be app hosting. All these are resources, right? So for example, you are creating one project. So what you can consider, what you can do, you can create one resource group for that project. And whatever resources that you are using for that particular project, all those resources you can put in this resource, all those resources you can put in this particular resource group for that project, right? Ideally, we can use one resource group for one project, but if your project is too big, it is major project, then you can consider creating multiple resource group as well. And again, in each resource group, you can put related things. For example, in one resource group, you can put all your services related to networking. In second resource group, you can put all the services related to database, right? So this way you can organize. Right, the whole purpose of resource group is to keep our resources organized, structured, right? So that it makes easy to manage them, monitor them, and also delete them when we no longer need them, right? So to repeat again, to summarize, a resource group is just like a digital container, right? That holds everything you need for a particular project. Right? So it's just like a folder or a box that will keep your things organized in one single place. Understood? Resource group. Should I show you this in action? How a resource group looks like? So for that, now we'll move to Azure portal. Okay. And I will share the link of Azure portal with you in the chat. So you can log into portal.azure.com. Right. So those who have shared their Outlook, I provided them subscription. They can do this hands-on with me, right? So please log into this portal. You don't need to type in password again, because if your Outlook is open, that means in the browser you are already logged in, right? So you can just open portal.azure.com and you will see the screen, the dashboard, something like this. See, I am on the same link, portal.azure.com. Let's first walk you through this platform, right? Let's get familiar with this platform. So this is the dashboard, right? And this Azure portal is all about services. For different purposes, you can use different services, right? For example, see the first thing here you can see is Azure service. So here you can see there are so many services. These are the services that I was using latest. That's why it is showing in the front, right? Then there are resources, then there are navigate. Again, these are services. Everything is service here, right? And on the top, you can see one search bar. Can you see this search bar? Here you can search for specific service. For example, I want to create virtual machine. So I will write virtual machine and you will find this virtual machines services. Okay. We will definitely use these services, but not now. We are just introducing the platform, right? So I hope you got the idea of how platform looks and how you can access different services. Okay, now we are going to use one service called as a resource group. Okay, so let's create the resource group. Right. So in the search, I will search for resource group and see under services, you can see resource groups. Right. Click on that. And you can see these are the resource groups that are created already, but we will create a new one. Okay, so I will just click on this plus create button. Okay, and here the first thing it is asking is for subscription. Now we have only one subscription, pay as you go. You will not see any other option, and this pay as you go will be selected by default. Then the next is resource group. Here you need to type the name of your resource group that you want to create. Okay, for example, I want to create FDP-RG-1. This is the resource group that I want to create. So I wrote FDP-RG-1. Okay, and there are some naming rules, right? But I'm fulfilling all of them. That's why I'm getting this correct symbol here. Now, the last thing that you need to enter is the region, right? So region, you can select the nearest one so that you access these services a bit faster, right? So the nearest to us should be Central India. Let's find if it is there. You can also search Central India. Right? You can choose any other also. That is going to work just fine. But let's use the nearest one. Okay, and I put in everything. So now I will just click on review plus create. Okay, and it is going to pass the validation. So my validation is passed. Now finally I can review this. So everything is looking fine. Now I will just click on create. And my resource group is created. You can see this notification here that your resource group is created. See, if I go to resource group again, so see FDP-RG-1, which is created, right? Now, as a next step, what we'll do, we will put in some resources inside this resource group. That is all the purpose of resource group is, right? So we'll do that. But before that, let's come to the notes and let's discuss the next service that we are going to use, which is virtual machine, right? This is the service that we are going to use. So what is virtual machine? So you can think of a virtual machine as a computer which basically exists on the internet. Right now, the computer that we are using that is physically present, but virtual machine is the computer that is present virtually on the internet. Right? So you can use it without buying it physically or owning it physically. Right? Now, this virtual machine is just like the computer that we are using right now physically, right? So whatever we have in our physical computer, we can have it in our virtual computer, in our virtual machine, right? For example, operating system. For example, application that we are using, we can also install all of those in the virtual machine. Storage, right? Whatever storage we are using, we can of course use it in the virtual machine, right? And this virtual machine are very flexible. This is the major advantage of virtual machine. How flexible it is? Because here you can choose the size and power of your virtual machine, right? For a specific task, whatever power you need, whatever computing resource you need, you take that. And when you are done, you can give it back without any physical equipment involved, right? So this is how flexible virtual machines are. Okay. And also other specification also you can choose, like in your virtual machine which operating system you want, right? Sorry, which type of RAM you want, size of RAM you can decide, everything, every specifications you can decide, right? So in simple terms I can say virtual machine is just like a machine or just like a computer that we can use over the internet. Okay, enough of repetition. I repeated so many times. I think now it is clear to you, right? Because this is very important thing. Virtual machine is an important concept in cloud computing, right? Because everything starts with a computer, a virtual machine. Okay, so I hope you got the idea and we are good to go to create a one virtual machine. Okay, are we all ready? Shall we move to Azure portal again? So again, I'm on the dashboard of Azure portal. And now I want to use the service of virtual machine, right? So for that, in the search bar, I will search for virtual machines. Click on virtual machines. And there are already two virtual machines that are created, right? But we are going to create a new one. So on the plus create button, I will click. Right? This is how you use any of the services, right? Remember on resource group also we created on create button. This is how you use any service. No need to remember anything, right? When you click on create, when you try to create any service, it will just ask you some questions, some options, some drop downs. You just need to select them. Just read them and select them, right? This is how you can use any of the services. No need to remember services, right? Now let's click on plus button, create button, and let's click on Azure Virtual Machine. Good. Alright. Now here we can put in all the details in order to create the virtual machine, right? So let's start with subscription. So subscription, I will put pay as you go only, right? Which is the default one. And the second is resource group. So we already created one resource group. Remember FDP RG1. So let's select that particular resource group, FDP RG1. Okay. Now it is asking for virtual machine name. Okay. So let me give something like FDP VM1, something like this. Again, there are some naming rules that you need to follow. So FDP VM1, I wrote, right? Then the next thing it is asking us for region. So region will keep Central India. You can choose another one as well, but we'll choose the nearest one. So I choose Central India. Now in availability zone, so see in every region there will be some availability zones, right? So in availability options, I will select availability zone, and in each region there are some availability zones, right? So see, for our particular region, Central India, you can see three availability zones are there, right? In case your application crashes or you loses your data or application in one zone, you can keep a backup in the second zone, right? So that your user can access the resource, access your website data from that particular second zone, right? So here you can choose multiple zones also, but right now I will go with only zone 1. Okay. Then next is security type. So there are some security types which are provided by Azure, but we will go with standard security, which is the basic level of security. And now the most important part is image. Okay. We are not going to write values for each and every field. For whatever fields it is required, we'll fill it, and rest everything will be default. Okay, so don't get confused or like that, right? That it is very difficult or it is looking very tricky. It is not. Right now I'm explaining you each and everything. That is why you can find it bit lengthy, but I'll also repeat this once again. We are just writing 3 4 values here. Rest everything is default, right? Now in the image, I'm going to choose the operating system, right? If you expand this drop down, you can see so many operating systems are there. And if you don't want to use any of this, you can click on see all images. If you click there, there are all the operating systems, all the distributions of Linux, right? And also different variants in that. For example, let's say we want to create Microsoft Windows 10, right? So we can select it here. And here also there are so many additions, so many variants of Windows 10, Enterprise, Pro, like so many are there. So let's choose anyone. You can choose anyone. So I'll go with maybe Windows 10 Pro, like this, right? Windows 10 Pro, x64 Gen 2. I can go with this. Now, what will happen, whatever image that you choose, whatever operating system that you choose, that is not supported in your particular region. So in that case, what you can try choosing different region, but better you can try changing the operating system. Right now we chose Windows 10 Pro. It is working just fine in the Central India region. So we don't need to do anything. Otherwise, you will get an error here. Okay. And I don't think we need to change anything. This size we can change, right? Memory size, but let's go with default one. It is also showing the pricing if you see. Okay, but I'll come to that later on. And finally, here I need to write username and password, right? For administrator account. When we also buy a system, buy a physical computers, laptop, we also need to create our username and password, right? So here also we are doing the same thing because we are buying a computer. Basically, we are getting a new computer, right? So we need to set up this username and password. Again, there are some naming rules, and there are different naming rules for all these. For username, there will be different. For password, there will be different. For naming resource group, there will be different. Right? For naming virtual machine, it will be different. So no need to remember these rules. Okay, you can just type, and when you are going wrong, it will ask you to correct. Okay, so no need to uh, remember these rules. Okay, even I don't remember. So in username, let's say I'm writing FDP, maybe username UN1, something like this. FDP UN1. And I am fulfilling all these conditions. So no issues in my case. And password. So password must be minimum 12 characters long. So let me give a password here. So I'm just setting up a new password. Okay, it accepted. Then I put in my password also. And again, no need to change anything. You can just confirm this license. Okay, there are so many fields. If you see, there is disk, there is networking, there is management. No need to change anything. Of course, you can modify it if you want, but no need to change anything. We can go with the default settings. And finally, we'll go to review plus create. And again, here it will pass the validation. And now we can review the details. Right, this is the pricing. You can see that per hour will be charged this much, and here you can just verify your details, and the subscription that we selected, resource group that we selected, virtual machine name, region, availability zone, everything you can just verify, and then you can click on create. Once you think it is fine, everything is going good, you can click on create. Now deployment is in progress. It takes some time, right? A minute or two. So let's wait while deployment is in progress. I hope those who are following along with me are with me, and I will repeat all the steps once again. So don't worry. Okay. Let's wait for a minute and it will be done. And then after that, I will show you how you can delete these resources. You saw, right, that it is charging some money every hour. It is charging some money, right? So what we'll do after completing our practice, we will delete those resources, right? Just to avoid any extra cost, right? You don't need to pay anything, right? EduNet is taking care of that. You can practice whatever service that you want. You can practice all of them, but make sure that once you finish practice, you delete those resources, right? I'll show you how you can delete. Okay, it is taking a bit longer. So if you have any doubts, you can please type. I'll check it now. Those who are giving their Outlook accounts, please do not write in the chat because they might be missed. So what we can do, again, I will share the Google form, right? And you can fill up that form and I will add you in the subscription, right? It takes 2-3 minutes per participant to add, right? So let's not do that in the class, right? I'll share the Google form again, and after the session, you can practice. Okay, deployment is in progress. I think my internet is bit slow today. That is why it is taking more time. Otherwise, it happens, it get done in less than a minute. Okay, so while it is progressing, let's discuss some more concepts, right? Let's discuss about storage accounts. This is also an important service that cloud provides us. So let's discuss a bit about storage account, right? So storage account, again, I'll explain with one example. You can consider it as basically a digital warehouse, right? Where you can store your stuff, and your stuff can be again files, pictures, videos, right? But instead in cloud instead of physical building, right? So basically in this warehouse, you get containers, right? You have different sections called as containers, right? I'll continue the warehouse example only. So in this warehouse, you have different sections called as containers, right? It is similar to, having rooms for organizing our items. In warehouse, there are so many rooms where we are organizing our items, right? Now, if you talk about types of storage, so there are basically three types of storage that cloud offers. One is file storage. I'll also name it here, file storage, right? File storage you can use when you want to store, documents, right? Second and most used are blob storage. This storage we can use when you want to store large files or media files like videos, right? That time you can go with blob storage service of Azure. And you can also use table storage, right? As the name is saying, table storage we can use for structured data. The data is in the table form, then you can go with table storage, right? And now this storage account also comes with feature of access control. Let me name here so that you can revise it afterwards. And containers, then types of storage. In types of storage, we discussed file, blob, as well as table. After that, let's discuss about access control. Right. So basically, for this storage account, you can decide who can access your items. Right. You can set rules on who can view, who can modify, who can delete these items. Right. So this access control is in our hand. Right. Then again, it is scalable. You know the meaning of it. So I'll not go there again. Then there is one more feature of this storage account, which is accessible anywhere, right? Again, you just need an internet connection. You can access it anywhere. And one of the most important feature for this service storage account is backup, backup and durability, right? So basically, Azure take care of making sure that your stored items are safe and they are not easily lost, right? Okay, just like a good warehouse, just like a good warehouse would protect your items from damage. So it will protect your data from any kind of damage, right? So to summarize, let's put it in simple terms that Azure account is just like you can say a digital warehouse where you can store your digital belongings, right? So that it is easy to organize, manage, secure, and access from anywhere you need. Right? Understood? Got the idea about storage account? Right? We'll also discuss about Azure SQL database, right, in a while. But before that, let's complete this. So my deployment is completed. Okay, that means this service is successfully created. My virtual machine is created. But now how to access that virtual machine? How to use that virtual machine? So for that, I will just go to resource. If for some reason you reach to home page again, so how to navigate our virtual machine that we created? Again, we'll go to search. We'll search for virtual machines. And here, see FDP VM1. This is the virtual machine that we created just now. And all the details of that virtual machine is also showing up here. If you click on VM1, FDP VM1, now these are all the details of your virtual machine, right? Now we want to connect with this machine, right? We want access of that this machine. Okay. So for that, you can see on the top here, you can see connect button. We will click on connect, right? Again, click on connect. And now what we are going to do, we are going to use the RDP way of connecting this with virtual machine, right? RDP stands for remote desktop protocol. If you search in your start, you can search for remote desktop connection. See, this software we require to run our virtual machine, but this software comes pre-installed with your system, right? So no need to install anything externally, right? What we are going to do, we will just download this RDP file so that we can run this RDP file on this software, remote desktop connection, right? So here you can see the option download RDP file. We will just click on this and you can see one RDP file is downloaded. I will just open that RDP file, right? And you can see remote desktop connection software is opened. When you open RDP file, by default, RDP file get opens into this particular software, remote desktop connection, right? And now we will click on connect. See, now it is asking me for password and the username that we created was FDPUN1. Remember? So this username it is already taking, but for some cases you will not see that username here. So what you can do in that case, you can go to more choices. You can go to use a different account. See here, you can go to use a different account and you can type in FDP UN1, which is your username, and the password that we set, you can type it here. So I will type my password, you will type yours. So I'm ready with my username and password, and now I will click on OK. I will click on yes, and it is connecting to that virtual machine, and see my brand new laptop, my brand new virtual machine is created. As we first time set up the new computer, it takes some time, right? So same here, it is taking some time. Let's wait. It should not take more than, yes, done. And here you can just set up your new computer as you want, but I will go with default settings and I will click on accept. And finally, we'll see our desktop. Can you see the desktop? Right, so this is our virtual machine. Whatever you can do on your physical machine, you can do everything on your virtual machine. For example, if you want to access browser, you can open browser, and again we are opening browser for the first time, so we need to set it up, but I will not. I'll just go with the default options. Right, you can access internet, you can access anything, for example google.com. Right, so now I am surfing internet with the virtual machine. You can install your JDK here, you can install Eclipse, you can install whatever you want. Right? Clear? Virtual machine. Now, before I repeat the steps, let's disconnect from this virtual machine. So for that, can you see this close button here? You can do that. But before that, if you want, you can shut down also. Otherwise, when you open this virtual machine second time, you will see all the opened tabs and all the opened applications as it is. So if you want to avoid that, you can just shut down it from here. Right now I can directly disconnect. I don't have anything open here. I will directly disconnect, so I will click on close. Your remote session will be disconnected. I will click on OK, and now we are back to our original Chrome browser. Right, so this is how we can create the virtual machine. Okay, now I will repeat all the steps once again. So I'm again on my home page, on my dashboard. I will go to virtual machine. I will click on plus create, and now you will see how easy it is. Before I was explaining the things along with typing in the value. That's why it was a bit tricky, but now everything will make sense. See, first is subscription, no need to change. Resource group, let's write FDP RG1 only, right? Or you can create the new one directly from here. See here, create new option is there. We'll do this in the next service. Okay, I'll show you in the next service. Then virtual machine name, you can give whatever you want. Then region, Central India. Availability zone, I will go with only one zone, but you can choose multiple as well. See here, it is already written also that selecting multiple zone will create one virtual machine per zone. Right, so whatever you are using of this service, it will be reflected in all the zones. Right, so I choose only one. Then security type, you can go with standard. Image, you can choose anyone. I am choosing Windows 10 Pro, and then nothing else. Just your username and password, and then just review create, and then click on create. Right, and once it is created, let's again see how you can access. So for that, I'll go to virtual machines. This is my virtual machine, right? FDP VM1. Click on that, click on connect, again click on connect, download this RDP file, and then just click on RDP file. Your remote desktop connection will open, and then just enter your username and password that we set at the time of creating machine. Right, this is how simple it is to create virtual machine. Yes, I completely understand that if it is first time for you, that you are creating virtual machine and you are creating any of the Azure services or cloud services, then it might seem bit tricky to you, right? But once you practice it 2-3 times, we are also going to use 2-3 more, 2 more services. So by that time, you won't find any issue using any of the service. Okay. Okay, fine. So let's again get back to the notes and let's discuss some more concepts theoretical, and then we'll again move to app hosting service. So after storage account, I want to discuss about Azure SQL database. Okay. So far, what we were doing, we wrote our SQL queries on MySQL, right? But the same thing Azure also provides, right? So whatever SQL queries we were used to write it on MySQL, you can write it now directly on the Azure portal, right? You can use this service, right? It is, again, it is scalable, it is secure. Those are the features of this, right? You can access your database from anywhere, right? The important thing is here for SQL database, you can use structured data, right? And you know all these things, right, already. And yes, again, one more feature that it provides is fast search, right? As compared to normal SQL databases that we set up on our physical computer, right? In SQL database, the searching will be fast, right? So your application will be fast eventually. And again, it is coming with automatic backups, right? As we had in the storage account. Yes, so those are some of the features is like pay as you go, right? These things you already know. Okay, so now let's move ahead and let's, yes, in the same thing, let's also discuss about architecture. This is a bit important. So architecture of Azure SQL database. Again, we'll take one example and understand this architecture, right? So basically there are 3 parts of this architecture. One is client, second is SQL database, and third part is control plane. Okay. So to explain with one example, you can consider that your Azure SQL database is, is like a multi-story building where your data lives, right? And there are 3 parts. First is client. So you can imagine client as, the entrance to this building, entrance to this multi-story building. Yeah, right. Your computer or application basically connects to database through the internet, through this entrance of the building, right? So it is much like you enter a building through a door. That is what the client is, right? If we talk about the second part, which is SQL database, so this is where your data is getting stored, right? This is where you will store your data. You will organize your data, right? Your data is secured at this place, right? So it is just like, rooms in a building where you keep your stuff. And again, it is managed by Azure. So you don't need to worry about maintenance. And finally, if you talk about the control plane, so you can think of this as a building management office. All the management stuff will be done from this place, right? It can handle things like access control, backup, scalability, scaling, right? You tell it what you need and it makes sure everything runs smoothly. Okay, so to keep it in a simple term, to summarize, I can say you have, the entrance, that is the client, the storage and organization area, that is the SQL database, and the management office, that is the control plane, right? And all working together so you can keep your data safe and accessible in the Azure database. Right? I hope you got the idea that how we are using database on Azure, right? On which architecture it is working. Okay. And now let's see about app services. Azure app service. It is a service that basically allow us to host our applications, right? We'll see how we can host, right? It can host your website, it can host your web application, it can host even your mobile application, right? You don't need to worry about technical details. Remember, it is a part of platform as a service, right? So we don't worry about any kind of technical details, right? It basically takes care of all the behind the scene work, right? You just focus on hosting your application and working on features of your application. Okay. So let's now explore this service and let's host a web page, a website on this service. So for that, again, I will come to this Azure portal, right? I will click on Microsoft Azure and I'll go to the dashboard. And here I will search for which service? I will search for app services. So app services, click on app services, and again we'll go to create, right? So see, we are doing the same things to create services, right? Just a second. So I'm clicking on create, and now I will click on web application, web app, right? Or static web. Let's first do the static one. Okay. Remember, we created a static web page on, I think, day 2 or day 3, right? So let's do one thing. Let's host the same application here, which had only HTML and CSS, right? So let's do that. So for that, I will go to static web app. Okay. Yes, here we are going to use GitHub. So if you don't know GitHub, let me first guide you through that and then we'll continue from here, right? So what we are going to do, whatever project that we created, right? See here in my VS Code, just yes. Here, there is one folder called as static web page, and here we have index.html file. This is the file that we created on day 2. Yes, remember this static web page that we created, my website, there were main, there were 2 sections, right? And 1 footer. So let's try to host this website. So what we will do, we will first push this particular website on a GitHub. And what we'll do, we'll connect our GitHub to Azure portal, right? So that it becomes easy to host our applications. Right? So for that, you need GitHub and Git, right? Git in your local system, right? This is nothing but version control, right? So whatever you do on your local system, you can push it on the remote server, remote repository, right? Let's not go in depth about Git, but still you can follow along with me. What you can do, I'll share one document with you. You can follow it and you can set up Git. Okay, just a moment. Yes, it is in day 5. Yes, Git setup. What you need to do, you can go to this particular website and you can download Git. Let me show you. Let me show you so that you can do right away, right? I want that you guys follow along with me. So let's do it in the class only. So see, you can see one option, download for Windows, right? So you can download for your operating system. If you are using Linux, you will see the option for Linux, right? I will just paste this in the chat. Okay. So download it and install it. Fine. Once it is done, once you download it and once you install it, again you need to install it like next step, next and finish, right? Once it is done, you need to do this 3 line of configuration, right? You can open any terminal or you can open Git bash. Git bash is also a terminal, just like CMD. When you install Git, it will come pre-installed with it, right? But you can use anyone. You can use command prompt, you can use PowerShell. Open that and write these 2 commands there. basically we are setting up our username and user email for our Git, right? So here you can just replace your name with your name and your email.example with your email, right? So I'll share these 2 lines also in the chat, and you can do this once you complete with download and installation of Git. That's all we need to do in order to set up Git, right? Nothing complex. Now this is done, but you need to also create GitHub account. If you don't have GitHub account, this is the link I'm sharing with you. We can go to this link and we can sign up. This sign up takes 2 minutes max, right? So you can do this thing as well. Okay. And after that, we can be able to perform our practical. If I show you about GitHub, so see, this is how GitHub looks. While you are downloading and installing it, I can just walk you through this platform. So see, this is how GitHub looks. You can see on the left hand side, I have some repositories, right? These are the repositories that I created. Okay. Now we'll also create one new repository for our static web page. Okay. So to create this repository, what you can do, you can just click on new. I can just click on new, and then it is asking me for repository name, right? So I can just name it something like FDP. Okay, FDP static web page is already there from previous FTP. So let me name it something else. FDP static web page 2, something like this. Okay, so I created this. Yes, FTP static web page is also available. So I wrote this repository name, and then I can just click on create repository. Make sure that your repository is public, right? So that everyone can access it and you can host it without any issue. So you just enter repository name and then just click on create repository. Then your repository is created. Right now you need to run these commands. No need to understand this. This is not a Git session, right? You can just follow, and this is very easy to follow, right? You won't find any issues here. You can just follow. What we can do here, this is our static web page, right? Here I can open the terminal. Okay, I'll go to the static web page folder, and here I have my index.html. Now I will just copy all these commands and paste it here. Okay, git init, which is basically initializing Git repository. And instead of git add readme, I will write git add dot, because I want to add everything that is there in the folder into my repository. Basically, it is staging area, but let's not discuss that. And then third command is commit. Fourth command is changing the branch. Fifth command is connecting our local repository with GitHub, with remote repository. Yes, by git init, we specified that this is our local Git repository. So right now, with this command, we are connecting our local Git repository with the remote one, which is GitHub. Hit enter, and then you can push all the things that are there in your local repo to your remote repo. So git push origin main, and done. Everything is done. If you again go back to GitHub, if you refresh this, see index.html is now appearing here, right? So I basically I uploaded all the files, everything on my remote repo now. Okay, that's all you need to do. Now again go back to Microsoft Azure, right? We were creating a static web application. We chose one resource group. Okay, we didn't. So let's create one new resource group. Okay, I wanted to tell you that from here also you can create new resource group. So I will click on create new, and maybe I will say FDP RG2. Okay, and then click on OK. Here you can name your application, right? For example, I want to name it FTP static web page. Yes, this name is available, so I can write it. Then the plan type, let's go with the free one. And here you can choose any one. You can choose Central US. Central India is not showing up here. You can choose any region. For example, Central US. Okay. So basically, this services is applicable for these regions, right? So let's go with Central US. Now the main part comes, which is deployment details, right? Now here the source that we need to select is GitHub because we want to connect our GitHub to this Azure portal, right? So go with GitHub only. Okay. And here GitHub account, you can see my account, Jayabhani. But for your case, you will be asked to link your account. Okay, it will just open one external website and then you need to just confirm it. And your GitHub will be linked here. You might require to type in your GitHub username password, but it will not because GitHub is already open in the same browser, right? So just link your GitHub account here, right? It will take hardly 30 seconds. And once it is done, see, there are three options: organization, repository, and branch. Organization will be your profile name, which is Jayabhani. Repository, what repository we need to host? What was that? We named it as FDP static page, I think. Yes, FDP static web page. See the repository that we created there. Now I can see here because now my GitHub and Azure is linked. So I will click on FDP static web page. Okay, branch, you can select main. There is only one branch, so it will be already selected. And then build. No need to write anything here. No need to choose any kind of framework. So build preset will keep it empty. If we get any error, then we'll see. So now let's click on review plus create. And again, it is passing validations. So let's wait for a moment. And yes, done. You can just review it and then you can just click on create. Let's wait, submitting the deployment. It is a static page, so it won't take much time to get deployed, but still let's wait for a minute. It will be done soon. Yes, it is done. Deployment is complete. Now let's go to resource. Now where is the link of our website? Our website is hosted. So this is the link, say URL. Now it takes some time to get your content loaded. Sometimes it takes 2 minutes. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes even 30 minutes or more than that. But let's try. Let's open this link. Visit anyway. This was because of antivirus. And yes, your website will be ready soon. Our application is hosted, but the content is not loaded yet. Right? As I told you, it takes some time. So let's wait for 2-3 minutes and again we'll just refresh it and check. Yes, it is already done. See, I refreshed it and now see this website we created and now we hosted it. If you guys also want to see it, you can see. I can share the link with you. Right, so this is how you can host any static application. But now let's go to, let me know first if you guys have any doubts or if you want me to repeat, please do let me know. Otherwise, I can move to the next stuff, which is to delete the resources. Right, we forgot to delete resource group for virtual machine. Remember? So now let me show you how you can delete the resources. Right? So
Sir,
what
please
you can
repeat
do?
once. Please repeat once.
Yeah, sure. Let's repeat. So again, I'm going to host my application using app services, right? So in the search, you can search for app service. Okay. And here you can click on create, right? You can click on create and then go to static web page. static web application. Okay, and here subscription default resource group you can choose, for example, FTP RG2. Then name, you can type any name, for example, my app, something like this, right? It is available, so there won't be any issue. Then hosting plan will go with the free one. Then region, you can choose anyone. This service is available in this particular regions, so I'll go with Central US. Then deployment details, click on GitHub, right? And link your account. You just need to link your account once. See, for my case, I don't need to link it again, right? So you just need to link your GitHub account here. It's very simple process. Whatever option you are getting, just click on that and it will redirect you to some of the confirmation page and you just need to confirm it. Okay. After that, in organization, select your profile. Only one option will be there. Select that. And repository, what repository we want to host, we want to deploy, this particular FTP static web page. Now, one thing you need to make sure that your file name, whatever the entry point is, it should be index.html. This one convention you need to remember. If it is not index.html, then it will not get hosted. Right? The entry point must be index.html. Right? If you go with any other deployment option, we can configure that also. But it's always a good practice to keep index.html always. See, even in React application, it was index.html because that is the starting point. Right? That is the file that Azure will look for. Okay. So remember that thing. Now repository, I will select FTP static web page. And branch, you can select main, which is the only branch that we have. And you can just click on review plus create. Right? Once it is created, you can just open the URL. For example, this is the hosting service that we created. Here is the URL. See, here is the URL. You can just copy it and you can just share it with everyone. Okay, is it clear now? Shall we move to next thing? So the next thing is deleting resources, right? One of the most important thing. So let's go to resource group. And these are the two resource group that we created. Let's go to FTP RG1. And in this resource group, remember we installed virtual machine. We created virtual machine. Yes. But if you see here in this resource group, these are the services that are stored in this resource group. Now you will say we just installed one. Why it is showing us 4? Right? So the thing is virtual machine service internally uses some more services. Right? So you can see all these 4 services here. Okay. Now one option is you can delete them one by one. So you can see this triple dot and you can click on delete. Right? So you can delete all the services one by one. That is one option. But second and better option is to delete entire resource group so that whatever services that are there in that particular resource group, all can get deleted in one day. Right? You just need to delete resource group and everything will be deleted. All services will be deleted. So see, to delete resource group, see here you can see the option delete resource group. Can you see this option? Delete resource group. Right? So we can just click on that. And here it is asking us to write a resource group name just for verification, confirmation. So I'll just copy this resource group name from here and I will paste it here. And then I will click on delete. Again, delete. It was just for a confirmation. So for deletion also, it may take 1 or 2 minutes, right? Depending on the number of services and the size of services. And again, internet connection. So see, in this notification bar, you can see all the processes that are running. See, we had deployment, we had resource group create, everything you can see here. And the status of our deletion is running. See, it is in the running phase. Okay, is it clear to all how you can delete the resource group? Okay. Let's delete the second resource group also. I wanted to actually host a second website also, right? So for static web page, I wanted to show you for dynamic web page also, one backend application also. But due to time constraint, we cannot now do that. But still, I want to guide you how you can do that, right? So for that, let me do one thing. Let me give you one GitHub repo, okay? And I can explain you how you can deploy that. So see, this is the GitHub repo. Yes, Rambabu sir, for our static application, I wrote CSS and HTML in one single file, single HTML file. So that's why we had only one index.html file. Otherwise, you can have as many files as you want, right? But the starting point should be index.html, right? Same in React. You can imagine the React application where the starting point was index.html. Rest everything was built, rest everything was attached in that particular file. Right? So this way your starting point should be index.html. Right? Now open this link, the GitHub link which I shared. Open that link and you will be landed on one GitHub repository. Now see, this GitHub repository is not mine, right? Someone else has created this. So, but to host this, you need your own repository. You cannot host someone else's repository. So what you can do, you can fork this repository. You can see there is one fork option here. If you fork repository, that means this repository will be part of your account, your own repository. And that's after that only you can see this repository on the Azure portal. Right? So everything is done from GitHub side. Then what you can do, you can just go to Microsoft Azure, again, app service, and instead of web app, now we'll select static, instead of static web app, now we'll select web app. Right? And here you can fill in these details. Should I show you? Can we extend the session for 5-7 minutes so that I can show you, because you might get confused here because
Okay, sir.
I know. So let's
Okay,
extend this
sir.
and let me show you. Yes. And see, before that, you can see this notifications. The resource group is deleted. Can you see this confirmation notification? Resource group is deleted. Yes. Now let me quickly do this. So I will click on fork. Okay. And you can just click on create fork. This is basically a .NET application, which is some front end, and of course .NET is used for backend. So it has some backend code as well. Right? Very basic code it is, but we don't need to understand that. We just focus on hosting this application. So now you can see this repository is now part of Jayabhani. Right? We forked this repository. All done from GitHub side. Now let's go to Azure portal again. Creating web application resource group. Let's create FTP RG3. Click on OK. Name. So let's give it name FTP web app, something like this. Let's see whether it is available or not. Yet it is. Then publish, you can select code. We don't have a Docker container and this is not a static web app. We'll go with code. Runtime stack. Runtime stack, this is a .NET application. So you can choose maybe .NET version 4.8, right? The version that we are using is 4.8 for this application, right? So runtime stack, you can choose .NET. 4.8 and operating system will go with Windows, and region. Let's see if Central India is there. We can go with that. Otherwise, East US will work just fine. Yes, Central India is there. Let's go with that. But region doesn't really matter for practice. You can choose anyone. Okay. After that, there is one pricing plan. So let's not go with the default plan. Let's create new one. Maybe my pricing plan, something like this. You can name, click on OK. And pricing plan, actual pricing plan, let's change it to free one. Okay. Again, we are changing it to free one. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. I repeat again, subscription, select resource group, create one, name, you can name anything, publish, code, runtime type, whatever you're using. We are using .NET, we choose that. Operating system, Windows, region, Central India. Pricing plan, no need to change. We need to change, right? We change it to free one. You can also, for practice, you can choose the standard one. There you will get some more memory, some CPU, right? Those things you will get more. But for our case, we are good to go with 60 CPU minutes per day. So we'll go with the free one. But for practice, you can choose. But make sure you delete everything, whatever you use. Okay. So I will go with the free one. Right now, here there is no detail about GitHub. It is actually, if you go to here, next database, you can directly go to deployment. There will be deployment. See here on top, you can see deployment. Go there and you can just enable this GitHub action so that you can add GitHub repository here. So enable this, and my GitHub account is already linked. I think by now your account will also be linked here. So you will see your account here. And again, those three things, organization, repository, and branch. So select organization, Jayabhani. Branch, what is the branch? Here is, sorry, repository. Here is the repository, app service, web.net, get started. This is the very basic application of .NET, right? Master, branch, and nothing else you need to change. Click on review plus create. Click on create. Deployment is in progress. Deployment failed. Let's see the error. To resource group additional details from underlying API that might be default. Okay, let's check what went wrong. Let's try to redeploy. Let's create new resource group. I think there was some issue with that. So let me write FTP RG4. Click on OK. Test, everything seems fine. Yes, let's try once again. After break, I'll show you one interesting thing, how you can, host on GitHub. GitHub also provide cloud solutions. You can host your websites on GitHub also, right? And why I'm including that, because so that you can also showcase that to your students, that whatever they are practicing, and will deploy basically React application, right? So whatever your students are practicing, how they can deploy, right? Because students might not use Azure, this might be some complex thing for them, right? And using GitHub, you can deploy within 2 minutes. Very easy it is, right? So after break, I will show you that. Okay, but before that, let's figure out what went wrong here. Again, redeploy. Let's verify the details. I don't think we did anything wrong here. Always on. Let's make it false. Anything else that is required and we are missing? Yes, there was only one option that we missed, I think. And we set it false. We don't want to keep it on all the time. But if you want, you can choose, because anyway, we are going to delete this. RG5. Let's click on OK. Review plus create. Let's verify other details as well. Yes, stack and everything is correct. Sometimes these things happens earlier also, but with the same details, after 2-3 minutes when I tried, it happened, but right now it is not happening. Let's try one more time. Okay, so whatever we discussed, is everything clear to you? Yes, whatever we discussed today, is everything clear to you? Can you write it in the chat?
Sir, why we are linking to GitHub, sir?
Because it's very easy to link your GitHub to Azure. Because see, in this solution, we are just selecting the GitHub repository. Right, so it's very easy, and anyway you are going to use GitHub or any version control, be it GitHub, be it Bitbucket, right? Anyway you are going to use one of these tool, so it's better to link that to Azure portal so that you can save time configuring all those stuff, right? You can manually upload everything to Azure portal, that you can do, but it's better that you use GitHub repository or any version control system. And this practice we also use it in industries, in companies also we use the same practice.
Data will be stored there in GitHub.
Application data will be stored there. Whatever variables and things that you are writing, that will be stored. Database you can use of Azure, you can use of any database, you can utilize of Azure also. But your application is on GitHub, not data.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir,
See, there are so many services here. Azure, SQL, so many services that you can explore. Right? You can connect your SQL database here. You can connect with it and work. Okay, again, it is failing.